Hi everyone, my name is Mikhail Rodin, here with the frontiers of the historical research. I've recently been to Georgia to see the skulls of the first Homo species to ever migrate from Africa, and I got to learn about latest updates about the way they lived.
Dmanisi is a settlement in the south of today's Georgia. It was known since the Middle Ages as one of the points on the Silk Road. But it turned out that people had started settling here a lot earlier. In 1991, under the medieval ruins, there had been found the most ancient remains of early humans in Eurasia known to science. Their age is estimated at 1.8 million years. They are really only distantly related to the humans of today. But they are the first species of the genus Homo to ever leave Africa. Lordkipanidze is the general director of Georgian National Museum and the Dmanisi excavation project leader. How did the finding of the Dmanisi Homo skulls change our view on the scenarios for the first human dispersal in Eurasia?
Before Dmanisi finds, prevailing view was that first humans out of Africa should be 1 million years old. They should have already developed stone tools, and they should be anatomically in some way like we call it late Homo erectus, with big brain and already bigger body. It should be like 1,000 cubic centimeter brain capacity. So the Dmanisi finds changed and invalidated different ideas connected with first dispersal humans out of Africa. First of all, we could say that Dmanisi is around 1.8 million, so it almost doubled story. The second and very important are who were these people? Dmanisi fossil showed that hominids who were out of Africa, they still have small, teeny brains, around 550 cubic centimeters. It's a 1/3 of ours. And even brain structure, we saw now that is more primitive. It's not human-like, so it's very primitive brains. And also, they were small. They were small, maximum 1 meter 50 centimeters. It's important to stress that stone tools, which we found in Dmanisi, are very primitive, like old one stone tools. Before Dmanisi finds, scientists thought that first humans out of Africa should have already developed stone tools. We call it Acheulean stone tools, bifaces where you have already symmetry. But Dmanisi has just smashed rocks. To prepare stone tools like Dmanisi, you need 1 to 3 operations. And all these stone tools are coming from the material which you could find today in the surrounding areas. So to summarize, Dmanisi finds show that first humans out of Africa left earlier than we thought. They had primitive bodies, and they had primitive stone tools. The question why humans left Africa, it's like philosophical questions, you see. And I'm answering on this question already several times. And I don't think there was just one reason why they left Africa. I think first of all, they were able to enlarge their ecological niche, but I think also there was very important trait, what we call curiosity. The curiosity, I think, was one of the main drives which humans had. So why humans left Africa? Because they want it and they can.
What do we know about the environment of the Dmanisi hominins? Landscapes, climate, animals?
Dmanisi is a very well dated site. We have a combination of different methods. We have absolute methods using potassium-argon, argon-argon method, which dates directly these volcanic ashes. We have paleomagnetic, and it shows that we are around 1.8, but also we have plenty of extinct animals. And these animals can tell us about age, but also they can tell about ecology of this time period. And we could say that Dmanisi landscape was different than today. It was warmer. We had mosaic landscape, open landscape, and as well as forests. And animals show it. We have animals like ostriches living in open areas, right? We have many groups of carnivores. We have elephants, rhinos, we have giraffes, and all these bones are well preserved. I'm holding cast of one of the very dangerous carnivores. This is saber-toothed cat. We call it Homo. You can see it's all preserved. And we could speak about morphology, but also biomechanic, how this animal were using their very dangerous saber tooth. You know, they were big advantage for humans because they were killing animals, but they were not collecting all meat because of their saber-typed tooth. So this Homotarium was advantage for human. After killing animals, humans were scavenging. So Dmanisi has almost 50 different groups, which helps us to reconstruct in details paleo-environment and paleoclimate, but also interaction between hominids and other members of ecosystem. We have animal groups, mostly Eurasian origin. Some of them could have African, like ostriches, for example, but we don't know when they came to Caucasus. It's possible they came earlier. Only real representative of African fauna is Homo, what we can say. Anyway, study of biogeography of these animals led us to reconstruct different migrations from Africa to Eurasia or vice versa. Here, the hominids had a very rich fauna, vegetation, and water, plus, of course, an opportunity to produce stone tools. So it was a very favorable place to develop hominids. What happened before and after hominids, it's still question marks. I'm not sure that we are so lucky that found exactly first humans out of Africa. It's first documented humans. It's big chance to find them in Near East, in Anatolia, or in other parts. So it's reducing also a time period between Dmanisi and after. Finds in Spain, Homo antecessor, and even earlier shows that Homo erectus not just stayed. The finds in Europe more and more show that these people were not just staying in Caucasus. They started to migrate from Caucasus. So Dmanisi, it's an important point on the crossroads.
Could you describe this Homo species? How were they different from the earlier and the later Homo species?
In this hall, we have copies of different fossils from the world. And Dmanisi, skull 5, we call it, right? Which we found in 2005. In fact, on my birthday. It was best birthday present you can ever have in your life. So this skull is best preserved early Homo fossil in the world. So it's a like textbook fossil where we could speak about very detailed anatomy. Now, first of all, what we can say that this skull is a combination of different features. If you would find it in different places, skull cap, face, and jaw, you could say, oh, they are 3 different species. In this case, all we have in one. May I say this is the best and more complete portrait of early Homo. So to compare with us, of course they are much smaller. Brain is 1/3 of us. The face is different. It has a very strong canines. You see, no chin, and it has no frontal bones, no forehead, right? So it's a very primitive features, and which is in some way maybe one of the most primitive Homo erectus we ever found. This is a copy of hominid mandible, which we found in 91, which provoked a lot of discussions. Because in 91 it was difficult to imagine that you could have out of Africa so old fossils and very primitive fossils. And this jaw, which has both characters. If you will look on architecture, the shape of this mandible is very primitive. It has no chin. It's a very robust. It's our archaic features, but at the same time, it has a progressive feature like reduction of third molar, like wisdom teeth. So it means that here you have both characters. And for some scientists, where dominant were modern characters. In human evolution, you can see, let's call it inadaptive evolution. It's a very good example where you have both features. So we even are using the proverb that jaw is creation of devil and skull is creation of the god. You need always skull to be very clear in taxonomy. And I think the Dmanisi jaws are a very good example. For example, you can compare it with this one. So if you will see, first feeling is two different species. If you will go in details, you can see many of these differences are just allometry. So it's a difference in size, in age, maybe in gender. And then when we found this skull, everything was clear. So may I say that in Dmanisi you have mosaic features. Mosaic features means that you have a variability, and these two jaws are one of the best examples how you can see variability inside of early hominids.
The huge variety of traits in different Dmanisi skulls made some scientists classify them as different species. How is this problem solved by now?
In Dmanisi we have rare opportunity to look on population. We have 5 skulls here, and 4 of them has lower jaw, as well as we have hundreds of postcranial bones. We have a chance to study variability inside of group. And what we learned from Dmanisi that we have first 5 individuals and 5 different biological age. So we have a group where you can see differences which are in the limit of one group. We did big statistic analysis of modern humans. We did analysis of great apes, and we could say that Dmanisi is one paleodim. This population, for one scientist, is a new species. For others, this is part of Homo erectus group. I think both approaches have own arguments, but I would say Dmanisi is some way transitional from habilis to erectus, and maybe we have real earliest erectus here. Anyway, Dmanisi gave this chance to study whole variability inside of group, and we should look from this perspective. In Dmanisi, what we have is real different biological ages. We have very old individual, we have adult, subadult, and we have teenager. Study of teenager fossils helps to reconstruct ontogenesis. So the rates of growing of these people. May I say that Dmanisi gives an opportunity to look really on paleobiology of these hominids.
What do we know about their life? What was their way of getting food?
It's very difficult to reconstruct whole life of these people. We can call them people, right? But we think that they were already in groups, and they were socialized groups, and they were quite dangerous carnivores. One of the arguments why humans left Africa was always that humans changed diets, so they became real carnivores. This jaw shows definitely the humans were carnivore, but they were omnivores, may I say. But it's no doubt that they were meat eater, and of course they were hunters and sometimes scavengers. We try to reconstruct behavior of these people, and main evidence are coming from stone tools. Not because you had nothing else, because they are well preserved. And on stone tools, you can see by traceology, you can see traces of blood. Of course, this was used for smashing bones. The taphonomic analysis shows that we have in Dmanisi both. We have a natural death and we have reworked bones by humans and of course other carnivores, particularly hyenas. But humans definitely were using stone tools for taking meat from carcasses.
What do we know about their society?
In Dmanisi, we have 5 skulls, and all they are different biological age. One of them has a particular interest. This is skull, which has also lower jaw, and it's a particularly toothless. And we can see on it that there is a resorption. So we could say for sure that this individual lived several years without teeth. What it means, you see, it means that the Dmanisi hominids, which were in quite difficult environment, here already you have real winters. So these people survived in winter, where you have no vegetation, food, without teeth. So we think that explanation is that in Dmanisi we already can see social relationship. And this individual was treated by other members of group. And we think this is first traces of the solidarity. So my point is that compassion is one of the clear character which you can see in the Dmanisi hominids. One important stage in human evolution is when people start to share. And I think this is one of these examples. Solidarity, sharing. It means that they are more and more like us. So you see, we never had this kind of toothless hominids, even in great apes. It's very rare, you see, in modern great apes. The good example is from France, but it's almost Neanderthals, and it's just 100,000 years old. So we never had so well documented presence of so sick individual from this time period. You see, when to speak about portrait of the Dmanisi hominids, I think they have this balance. They have small brain, but enough to survive. I mean, their capacity. Their body, for example, their hands, they were still primitive. You can see humerus has a torsion, but their legs were very modern. It means they were very good runners. They could run very good today's marathons, right? But you see, also, I think in behavior, they are already groups, which is competitive advantage. All these characters in combination allow them to survive. So when I said why humans left Africa, because they can, they could. This is a opportunity. They were good runners, they are meat eaters, you know. They are quite dangerous hunters, so they are well organized in groups, so it is that portrait of Dmanisi people.
What is known about their diseases and traumas?
This individual definitely had several diseases, including treponema diseases, so different bacteria affected on him or on her, and also it had a traumas. So it's an opportunity to look also interactions, what happened inside of groups, because all these diseases were coming from inside of group. Also, you can see here whole, which could be a result of some animal influence or bird. So what I wanted to say that beside of description of the skull, we have an opportunity to look different aspects, including diseases. Yeah, it's very complicated to say which were traumas, how they were coming. You see, it can be inside of groups, but it can be from other animals. So this is why we are studying fossils, not just descriptive part. In fact, on the skull 5, we have broken zygomatic. So it means that it's affected on chewing of this. And so when we saw some kind of deformation of the mandible before we found the skull, we didn't understand what happened. We have an opportunity to look what happened during the life, but also modifications, what can happen post-mortem. With all this analysis, we can describe life of these people.
Tell us about the new protein sequence alignment analysis method. What information can we receive? Can we use it for hominids?
See, we are, what's next in Dmanisi, right? We have a wonderful collection of hominids. It's a very rare where you have in one side, we have 5 skulls, 4 of them has a lower jaws. We have a wonderful collection stone tools, but also animal bones, where rarely you can find so many animal bones so well preserved in one side. Generally, I want to stress, Dmanisi is a snapshot. It's one episode. I would compare it with a time capsule. So it's a time capsule of one period around 1.8 million. It means we can use different methods to make detailed reconstructions. And animals are a very important part of it, right? You know, Dmanisi story started in 1983 when Professor Vekua identified in medieval setting bone which belonged to rhino, right? So rhino brings in some way luck to us. And first animal bones from where we were able to get protemics, which is one way toward DNA, was also rhino. It means that we will build taxonomy not just by morphology, but also molecular information. And I'm sure one day it will be same with hominids, because today we still have discussion to which group belongs Dmanisi, right? Not just Dmanisi, all these fossils, what we do have, and we are based on just on morphological analysis generally, and very often small pieces. In our case, we have complete, and we have also population, where you can look from different aspects. You have a different biological age. You can see processes which are very difficult to see in juveniles, right? You will see it only in adult. To wrap up it, I think Dmanisi has a lot of information on one hand, but from other hand, many things we will learn in future.
What would you personally like to know about the first inhabitants of Dmanisi?
No, I think Dmanisi raises a lot of questions. I can tell you personally, every time we found new fossil, you are understanding how little you know. Of course, it will be wonderful to have well-preserved, complete skeletons of different ages, including young individuals, to see all story, to see development. And I'm sure it will come. And Dmanisi is still a lot of things to excavate. We excavated maybe 10-15% of the site. And what a good thing is that last year a new site has been discovered with human fossils 20 kilometers from Dmanisi. So I will be very happy to see not just Dmanisi, but what happened before and after.